welcome to this meeting of West Lothian Council Executive. Sorry, can we have silence, please? Thank you. I'm Councillor Lawrence Fitzpatrick and I chair this executive. The meeting has been broadcast live. A recording will be available afterwards through the Council's website. I'm being assisted today by the Chief Executive, the Governance Manager and colleagues from Committee Services and IT. Attendees may be joining the meeting from another location. Everything said while microphones are live will be broadcast and recorded. Members are asked to be polite, respectful and patient. There is more information, including a privacy statement, about meeting arrangements on the Council's website. An agenda has been published showing the business for today's meeting. I will introduce each item and normally a Council officer will speak briefly about the report before councillors ask questions, have a discussion and make any decisions which are required. Councillors may leave the meeting from time to time where they have declared interests that prevent them from taking part. There will be a pause while that happens and they will be invited back in for the next item of business. If the meeting is a long one, it may be adjourned temporarily for a meal break or a comfort break, and I will say if that is going to happen. So, do we have any apologies for absence?
Chair, thank you. We will have one today from Councillor Janet Campbell and Councillor Veronica Smith is substituting. And can I also take the opportunity to confirm those members online? Councillors Angela Doran-Timpson, Damien Doran-Timpson and Sally Patel.
Thank you very much. Are there any declarations of interest from any members, please? Councillor Anne McMillan.
Oh, thanks, Chair. Yeah, it's a transparency statement. I work for Christine Sullivan, the Member of Parliament for Bathgate and Linlithgow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The order of business is... Oh, sorry, Councillor Paul.
It's just to make you aware I'm a member of the CIH. There's something on the agenda for the CIH.
This is in relation to agenda item 7. And you're a member of the CIH. Thank you very much. But you will still be allowed to continue? Yes, thank you. The order of, there are no urgent items of business. And item 11 is for information only. Does any member wish for item 11 to be heard? Doesn't seem to be, so that will be taken as read. So, Kate Hopper doesn't need to continue to attend the meeting. Thank you, Kate. Very interesting paper. Can we confirm the draft minutes of the meeting of the Council Exec held on Tuesday, 4th February? Is that a correct record? People are nodding. Thank you very much. And we now move on to item 5, Boundaries Scotland, review of Scottish Parliament boundaries, consultation on additional constituency proposals and revised regions.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of the report is to advise the Council Executive that Boundaries Scotland is consulting on additional proposals for Scottish parliamentary constituencies and on revised proposals for regions. These additional constituency proposals do represent a change to the previous constituency proposals, which were covering West Lothian, and the Council had objected to these previous proposals. The additional constituency proposals see West Lothian split across 3 constituencies, 2 wholly within West Lothian, Amond Valley and Bathgate, and 1 joint with Falkirk Council area, Falkirk, East and Linlithgow. Under the revised region proposals, all West Lothian constituencies are in the renamed Central Scotland and Lothian's West region. More details on the proposals, including maps, are contained in the report, and the Executive is asked to consider the proposals and agree any response to this consultation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any questions, please? Doesn't seem to be. Are there any comments? Councillor Stafford.
Thanks, Chair. It's just to let you know that we've got a motion with Committee Services.
Sorry, I have a motion as well. There are no questions, no comments. My motion has gone to Committee Services. Can it be circulated, please? We'll give you 5 minutes to read it. Thank you.
Chair, thank you. That has been circulated now.
Well, we're reading it. I think it's fair to say that following this round of consultation, another 1 month consultation will be held. and Boundaries Scotland are required to submit a report to Scottish ministers by 1st May this year. And if there is consideration to objecting by this council, that will automatically trigger a local inquiry. 5 minutes have elapsed, and I presume all have had the opportunity to reflect and consider. I formally move the motion on the basis that I ask the council to object to the additional current proposals for constituencies, which would place the community of Ward 1 part Linlithgow and Falkirk East, and Linlithgow constituency with parts of Falkirk Council, and place where the community of Pulbeth in the Bathgate constituency. Council recognises that these rules, the four current rules, will conflict, and that discretion will need to be exercised in deciding the appropriate weight of each rule given to the matter. With regard to Rule 4, I think it's clear that the case of Linlithgow, there are very strong links to the Lothian area for work, education, leisure and health, long-standing geographical, transport, employment and community links, and also very strong historic links. And the additional current proposals for constituencies seem to be a consequence of objections from other local authorities to previous constituency proposals, leading to West Lothian being split in a way which conflicts with the rules governing the review and is detrimental to the people of Linlithgow. It is noted that at the previous review of the Scottish parliamentary boundaries, our council has a theoretical entitlement to 2.3 constituencies, but it's 2.4 for this review. And the final recommendations were for 2 constituencies within the council area. Members are asked to note that in response to the further proposals where the council objected to the joint West Lothian North Lanark constituency, that the council's preferred solution would be to maintain status quo, with 2 constituencies covering West Lothian, and request that consideration be given to departing from the strict application of Rule 2 to retain 2 constituencies wholly within West Lothian. Members will be aware that there was an inquiry held under the auspices of the Sheriff Principal for the Lothians at Whitburn some considerable weeks ago, and certainly in the case of Whitburn and Falthouse, where there was an attendance of 70-80 local people, there was very, very strong objection to be moved, these villages to be moved into Lanarkshire. And indeed, the local MSP for the constituency in Lanarkshire also objected to the proposals. In the event that Boundaries Scotland is unable to depart from the electoral quota to this extent, we definitely request consideration be given to moving the community of Pulbeth from Bathgate constituency to Amman Valley. And this would be better for the community ties, very strong community ties which exist between Pulbeth and East West Calder, with only a small increase in the variation from the electoral quota. And what we are proposing is that Linlithgow and Bathgate would have a total electorate of 73,804, and Amman Valley would have a total electorate of 72,652. Do I have a seconder? And remember, under revised rules, it's not just a case of formally seconding. If you have something to say, it has to be said now. Do I have a seconder, please? Okay. Thank you.
And can I just add, using the opportunity, just to say that I think the case is very well made in the motion and outlines the position against each of the rules that have been set out for the decision-making process. I just think that the most important thing here is, yes, it's the numbers, yes, it's how we fit with criteria, but the reality is for those communities impacted, and for Linlithgow, I know it would be very much to the detriment of West Lothian as a whole, unto Linlithgow, in kind of breaking those strong links that we have across West Lothian from a Linlithgow perspective. So thank you for the opportunity, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And committee services have an amendment. Could you circulate that, please? And I'll give members 5 minutes to read it. Thank you. As I did say 5 minutes, it's quite clear. I think we're both in the same mind about Pulbeth. And with regard to Pulbeth, you accept that our very detailed legal description covers what you're seeking? Sorry, do you have a seconder for your motion, your amendment? Councillor Orr, thank you. Do you wish to speak, Councillor Orr?
Do you want to speak?
Okay.
Yeah, we accept your findings in your motion about Pulbeth, but we would abstain on the part about Linlithgow. I think at this stage we're looking to be as pragmatic as possible and accept that changes are necessary. Okay,
well, our motion stands including Linlithgow. Linlithgow is very, very important to this council, so that's up to you how you vote. It's basically on the motion. Okay, are there any other amendments? Doesn't seem to be. We're now open for debate. Councillor Conn.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the Boundary Commission have acted in an extraordinary manner in determining constituencies as part of this review. The original proposal was to extend West Lothian communities into Edinburgh. Quite bizarre. So it wasn't just on the traditional communities which West Lothian previously encompassed, which was Kirkliston and South Queensferry. It was included further into areas of Edinburgh, the Silverknowes area. It was quite an extensive extension into the urban area of Edinburgh. They reviewed it and they came up with another alternative, which was then focusing towards North Lanarkshire. Again, linking West Lothian with communities which we have no historic links. They've reviewed that, and we're now down to a situation where I think the motion covers quite well. It is purely now the numbers game. We were over the quota previously, and what the motion is suggesting that situation should be the basis of any constituency, albeit that the electoral quota will be increased. And the Boundary Commission have discretion to do so. They've exercised discretion in the past and in the recent determinations to change. And I think the request by this council to retain the town of Linlithgow in with West Lothian is a sensible one. It's a sensible one because when you consider that the ward of Linlithgow actually covers an area between the Falkirk boundary and the Edinburgh boundary, but for some reason we are now being then dissected as a ward, and part of us put into the Falkirk Council area and the constituency there. And I say the community ties would be broken in a way in which the town of Linlithgow, where it has the secondary school, and we have communities like Bridgend and Phillipston, where they have feeder primaries into the Linlithgow Academy, that starts to become more complex of how people recognise and identify themselves and who their representatives are. I think it would be best for the council to adopt the motion and to take it forward that Linlithgow as a town and as the whole ward stays within a West Lothian constituency. And we move forward on that basis and ask the Boundary Commission to do a final revision, and that final revision is to recognise that the quotas previously with the West Lothian parliamentary constituencies for the Scottish Parliament were over quota, and look for that to be the continuation of their final determination, because clearly time is of the essence as far as parliamentary approval is concerned, as far as the boundaries are concerned.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Any other member wishing to speak, please? Councillor Stafford? But you've moved the motion already. You've moved the amendment already. Yeah, I mean to say, if you're raising a point of order on the basis that you felt you didn't have the opportunity to speak, I'll allow you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, sorry, I responded to your question and I thought I would have an opportunity to speak to the amendment. Yeah, just briefly, we agree with most of what's in your motion, but I think, as Councillor Conn said, time is of the essence. This is the third iteration. We all appreciate the challenging job that Boundaries Scotland have got in rebalancing constituencies across Scotland, and this is about a Scotland-wide review. Scotland is one of the least locally governed countries in the world. So to ask them to change the quotas to this size, I think would undermine the sense of local democracy even further in Scotland. So at this stage, we would like to be pragmatic, while of course we would like to keep Linlithgow. I don't think that is practical. This is our third go at this. We knew we would be one of the most affected areas. So at this point, we're looking to maintain as much community cohesion and sense of place for our residents as possible, but we do accept that changes are going to be necessary. So our group has two main concerns, specifically on the additional constituency proposals. We didn't wish to raise any objections about the revised proposal for the regions. And the main concern is around Polbeth and its place in the Amman Valley constituency. We all know there's a very strong link between the community and the neighbouring settlements of Polbeth and West Calder. We outlined that in our motion, and I know all the councillors here will be well aware of that. And that's our motion for today. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other member? Doesn't seem to be. Okay, that being the case, very basically, to sum up, I'm glad that we all seem to be on the same page with regard to the community of Polbeth. With regards to Linlithgow, many reasons why Linlithgow has to be part of West Lothian. One only needs to read back centuries of ancient history, going back to previous names like Linlithgowshire, etc. And we would have hoped that there could have been unanimity on this. But nevertheless, that's where we are. So we can now go to the vote. Governance Manager, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. There are 13 votes to be cast. The vote will be taken electronically. We have the motion moved by Councillor Fitzpatrick. That's your yes button. We have the amendment moved by Councillor Stafford. That's your no button. And there's a third Briton there for abstain. Thank you, Chair. Votes have now been cast. That's 10 votes for the motion, 3 votes for the amendment. The motion is carried. Thank you very much.
We now move on to item 6, non-domestic rates empty property relief scheme. Kenneth Ribbons, please.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to present the non-domestic rates empty property relief scheme intended to take effect from the 1st of April for approval by Council Executive. In February 2023, Council Executive approved the original scheme to take effect from 1st of April of that year for a period of 2 years. At that time, it was agreed that a further report would be brought to Council Executive during 2024-25, following a full review of the policy and setting out any proposed changes from the 1st of April 2025. Accordingly, the proposed scheme is set out in Appendix 1 to my covering report, and a comparison of the current scheme and the proposed scheme is set out in Appendix 2. The proposed changes to the scheme are expected to generate recurring budget savings of approximately 1.14 million. Chair, Council Executive is asked to approve the scheme and, of course, happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Kenneth. Are there any questions? Councillor Stafford?
Thanks, Chair. Thank you, Kenneth. I just wondered if there's going to be a further opportunity to report back if this change is taken forward, particularly on collection rates and the rate of turnover on empty properties. Will we be able to see a report about how that affects things going forward?
Kenneth?
Chair, happy to do so if the Council Executive wishes it.
Yeah, I think we'd like to see that because, you know, it's very important that we encourage owners of empty domestic properties to bring their properties back to occupation as quickly as possible. We have a housing emergency. Happy to do that. What, maybe 6 months down the line? Thank you. Any other questions? Any comments? Councillor Stafford, comment?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just to say we welcome the review of this scheme. It's really good to see in the report that the implementation of this in other local authorities has not had an impact on their collection rates, and it has anecdotally helped to reduce the number of empty properties. Just thinking of my own ward of Bathgate, I know what a drag this has had on the local economy, and people's sense of pride in the town, as well as impacting on their well-being when buildings are left empty and boarded up for long periods of time. So this is really welcome.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, we're happy to agree the recommendation. Thank you very much. We now move on to item 7, CIH, Scotland 2025 Housing Festival. Kirsty Weir, please. Kirsty Weir.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to seek council executive approval for the attendance of the appropriate elected member to attend the Chartered Institute of Housing Scotland's festival on the 4th of 5th of March in Edinburgh. The elected member is a CIH member, so there is no cost to the council for his attendance at the conference. This is a sector-leading annual conference and exhibition for and housing event, and provides delegates with the opportunity to learn about all of the key issues affecting the sector, new developments in policy, practice and implementation. Thank you, Chair, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Kirsty. Are there any questions? Doesn't seem to be. Sorry. Councillor Damien Doran-Timpson, please.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, if you permit me this question, maybe not to the officer, but to the Executive Councillor. If this is agreed, would the Executive Councillor agree to coming back to Council Executive with a report on what learnings and network and positive results they've had from this conference?
Sorry, can I ask the Governance Manager to respond to that, please?
Thank you, Chair. It would not be appropriate to address a question to the Executive Councillor at this time.
Okay, thank you. But can I say, down the years, at many conferences, etc., and I've been there as well, COSLA annual conventions, there never has been a report brought back. But I'm sure the Chartered Institute of Housing will have a report on their conference, which will be available to all. Thank you. Any other questions? Any comments? Read the recommendation. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Damien, you want to come back? Sorry, I beg your pardon.
A verbal amendment to make on this paper.
Okay. We'll let you do that, but Sally Patel?
Hi, thanks very much. Sorry, I think my button is a bit slow, or maybe it's my fingers because it's cold. I think basically what I wanted to say was that I think probably if we're going to be spending money to send an executive councillor to any conference in future, we would expect something to come back to this committee in some form, just to say why the money was well spent.
Can I say there are no costs to the council in this case, as has been explained by the officer, Sally? Costs whatsoever.
It'd be nice to know what they get up to, even if it's just like what we had for lunch. Thank you.
Obviously, there are some followers of social media who would enjoy that. I'm not in that business. Damien, you have an amendment, a motion, sorry, an amendment to, because, sorry, I will formally move the recommendation. Do I have a seconder, please?
No, Chair.
Thank you. Damien, you have an amendment.
Yeah, and it's just a one sentence, and I'll speak to it. The amendment being that the Executive Councillor reports back to Council Executive a public item for information on the learnings and network positive results from this conference.
You have a seconder?
Happy to second, Chair.
Okay, are there any other amendments? Okay, I will sum up. Basically, the recommendation is that Councillor George Paul, as Executive Councillor for Housing and Building Services, attends. Never ever in the past, historically in the 25 years I've been on the council, has any member attending a conference been asked to give a full report back. These are learning and networking opportunities for people of all parties. And we do feedback to our own groups, and sometimes ideas are picked up which go to officers, which can assist learning and can assist in new ideas coming forward. Okay, thank you. We'll now move to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. There are 13 votes to be cast. There is the motion moved by Councillor Fitzpatrick. That is your yes button. The amendment moved by Councillor Damien Dorian Timpson. That is your no button, and your third button there for abstain.
Councillor Damien Dorian Timpson hasn't voted.
Yeah, can you hear me through there?
Yes, we can take your vote verbally.
Yeah, well, no, I can vote, Chair. You didn't give me an opportunity to speak to my amendment. I moved it. I've expressed it, but you didn't give me a chance to speak to it.
No, you don't have the right to speak to an amendment. The motion is to accept the paper. You were given the opportunity to speak to it, and you were.
To speak to it. Sorry, Chair, you didn't give me the opportunity to speak to it. I read my amendment verbally out, the actual amendment. You then moved to, were there any other amendments? And then I was cut off, so I did not speak to my amendment.
Sorry, I never cut you off, but we've now moved in terms of standing orders to the vote. We cannot go back. Thank you. And that's the advice from the governance manager.
From you, Chair, and the governance manager on this occasion, I should have been given the opportunity to speak to my amendment as per standing orders.
We're well beyond that point. I'm sorry, and I'm following the advice from the governance manager. Thank you. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Thank you, Chair. All votes have now been cast. There are 7 votes for the motion and 6 votes for...
What's the point of order? Sorry.
I was also looking for some clarity. Was there supposed to be an opportunity to comment as well for members?
Yes, everyone, we had the debate.
I didn't feel there was an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, there was no opportunity to debate or me speak to my amendment. And I think people could go back in the recording and we'll be able to confirm that.
Sorry, the governance manager will give advice to members. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. We have now moved to the vote, and it is no longer competent to raise points of order at this point. The vote has been cast and a decision has been reached. In terms of the vote, there were 7 votes for the motion, 6 votes for the amendment, and the motion has been carried.
Can I say from the chair, if anyone felt there wasn't clarity in giving everyone the fullest opportunity to say their bit, I'm sorry about that, but there was no intention. We always have full opportunity to debate. Thank you. We now move on to item 8, the consultation response to the National Speed Management Review consultation. Kenny Brown, please.
Thank you, Chair. In November 2024, the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Fiona Hislop, wrote to the Council to share details of the National Speed Management Review and to invite us to participate in the consultation process. The purpose of our report is to share with the Council Executive our proposed response to the consultation, which is provided in Appendix 1. Transport Scotland are consulting on 2 topics: lowering the national speed limit on single carriageway roads from 60 miles an hour to 50 miles an hour, and increasing the speed limit for goods vehicles over 7.5 tonnes on single carriageways from 40 to 50 miles an hour and dual carriageways from 50 to 60 miles an hour. We will be responding on behalf of West Lothian Council, but the consultation is available to everybody on the webpage I have referred to in the report. I would be happy to take questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kenny. Are there any questions on this, please? Doesn't seem to be. Are there any comments? Doesn't seem to be. I move the recommendation. Are we all agreed? Thank you very much. We now move on to item 9, which is the National 20 mile per hour speed limit strategy in appropriate urban areas implementation in West Lothian. Kenny Brown again, please.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of our report is to outline and seek approval on how the Roads and Transportation Service propose implementing the Scottish Government's commitment to a national 20 mile an hour speed limit. The national strategy advocates a vision of slower today for a safer tomorrow, making our streets feel safer and encouraging active travel. The key consideration is road safety. Statistically, the average person is 7 times more likely to succumb to fatal injuries if they are in a collision with a vehicle at 30 miles an hour than they are at 20 miles an hour. The information on the statistics and research is provided in section D1 of the report. The guidance from Transport Scotland allows roads authorities to decide appropriate speed limits for the local roads. The anticipated changes in West Lothian were gathered and approved by Council Executive in April 2023. This information was submitted to Transport Scotland. The proposed rollout of the national 20 mile an hour speed limit strategy would commence with our largest towns to ensure the benefits will be to the largest number of our residents. This information is provided in section D3 of the report. Officers will undertake community and stakeholder consultations as well as a public online survey to allow the public to have the opportunity to provide feedback and ensure the most appropriate permanent traffic regulation orders are introduced. Transport Scotland have indicated that funding for the implementation of the national strategy is available for the next 2 financial years. However, this will be subject to Transport Scotland's 20 miles an hour budget being agreed by ministers and made available each year. I would like to just make it clear that the national 20 mile an hour speed limit strategy is for appropriate roads in Scotland and is currently being introduced by local authorities across the whole country. To date, we understand that 21 local authorities in Scotland have commenced the national 20 mile an hour speed limit rollout on their local road networks. I would be happy to take questions, Chair.
Thank you very much, Kenny. Are there any questions? Councillor Angela Doran-Timpson, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Kenneth. So following the initial funding from the Scottish Government for this implementation, how much will it cost the Council for subsequent years if funding is not forthcoming?
Our intention would be to get as much funding as we possibly can out of Transport Scotland. We would then pick up, if should the funding not be forthcoming from Transport Scotland, we would have to take funding from our own accident prevention budget to roll out the remainder of the scheme.
So Kenneth, how much would that cost the Council if that were to be the case?
I think that would entirely depend on how far and how quickly we manage to roll out at the point. It's an unknown at this stage.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much for answering my question.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Stafford?
I've got 4 questions, if that's okay. Thanks, Kenneth, for the report. In the PDSP and in the papers, it says officers are going to undertake community and stakeholder consultation as well as a public online consultation. And I just wondered if we could have more details about when this will start, how it's going to be communicated, and how long it'll last. And I'm sorry if I've missed this, but is it also going to go through every LAC?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Our intention would be, as we roll out through the tiers that we've outlined in the report, we would go initially to the LACs with probably maps and lists of roads with the new speed limits proposed on them, so that all the elected members for each ward will have that opportunity, as well as the community councils and whoever else is represented in the LAC meetings. Our online survey doors, I would imagine we'll try and do that on a ward by ward basis as well as we roll out, because otherwise we'll end up with a level of data that's not manageable for the team that would be looking at this. So we would do it along with the rollout.
Okay. And then one of the concerns that's been raised is that there might be a risk that of increased air pollution as a result of the policy. And so I just wondered, has there been any evidence from areas that have done this already to suggest the air quality would be impacted? And if we felt there was an issue connected to this, how would we monitor that?
I'm not aware of any evidence that would back up the assertion that this is bad for air pollution. If cars are travelling at 20 mile an hour, they're burning less fuel. So, maybe it's actually a case that the air pollution might decrease. And I think the reality is for many of our high streets, the lowering the speed limit to 20 mile an hour will not actually make a significant level of difference, because the reality is the traffic is not moving much faster than that in any case.
Okay, thank you for that. You mentioned one of the key objectives is to encourage active travel. Do we have any plans to monitor this? How would we go about that to see if it has been successful?
Certainly, we're looking at monitoring the success of implementing the speed limits. So we'll do some road surveys before and after the implementation in terms of the driver behaviour. In terms of monitoring active travel, that's maybe something that would come into report 10, because we're monitoring the success of these sort of programmes anyway, as part of the rollout of the active travel plan.
Okay, so it might tie in with that, yeah. And then just finally, I just wondered, will this have any effect on the Quiet Roads initiative around B. Craigs and the Bathgate Hills, or is that completely unconnected?
That is a different initiative.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Logue, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just need to ask if there's not a lot of funding coming from the Scottish Government, and we have other priorities to do with roads and highways, with resurfacing and various other issues, and will we put some of the stuff on the back burner and wait for further funding to arrive?
So the funding available from Transport Scotland is solely for the purpose of rolling out the 20 mile an hour speed limits. It's not funding that could be used on fixing roads or other things like that. We would not propose taking road maintenance money away from fixing potholes to fund this. We would use opportunities like there's Transport Scotland has another funding source, Road Safety Improvement Fund. We would make applications to that in the first instance to ensure that we carry on with our rollout.
No, I think you misunderstood. If there was no funding available from the Scottish Government or any other funding revenues, you said you would try and carry out the programme using our own finances. How would you do that?
We also have annual AIP money, and there might be scope to use some of that to roll out this as one of the initiatives.
I just think it's
accident reduction.
Yeah, I just think it's a bit a big ask if they're asking us to do everything within the existing budget. So it's just a wee bit too much, because that's the standard way, just about everything in the council currently.
Councillor Veronica Smith, please.
Hi. Yeah, it was just you mentioned about the funding issues going from 2026 onwards. So local authorities have been implementing this policy since 2020. So what has been the hold up for West Lothian Council if we're reaching the stage where funding's coming to an end?
Sorry, Chair, I'm not quite clear on what the question was.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
You're saying that the funding is coming to an end, but all other local authorities have been implementing the policy since 2020 when money is available. So what's been the delay for West Lothian?
Gordon Brown.
Thank you, Chair. There was a time, there was a working group set up with Transport Scotland which took time to initiate, and also to get the guidance and information together before it was passed on to local authorities. What I would say about the funding is the Scottish Government is committed to this national rollout of 20 miles an hour, and although the funding specifically for 20 miles per hour ceases in 2 years' time, the Road Safety Improvement Fund is an avenue that will be used by local authorities to gain the funding to finish off the implementation of 20 mile an hour schemes. So we are confident that Transport Scotland will have the means to provide local authorities with funding to take this forward without using capital or revenue resources for themselves.
Thank you. Just another question. Obviously, there's a lot of interest from constituents. So there was the report from the Scottish Borders that was highlighting the benefits. The survey results were carried out during COVID 2021, so I've had some constituents mentioning how valid is that report. Are you able to comment on that?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the Borders was done through COVID, and they decided to make the temporary measures that were installed in COVID permanent. Our council didn't do that, but we did do before and after surveys of the 20 million hours that were put in West Lothian during COVID, and there was a reduction in speeds that was recorded for the survey. So in terms of speed reduction, it was successful in West Lothian and it was successful in the Borders, and there is evidence to suggest that by reducing speeds in the local road network, it does work.
Thank you, that's great.
Councillor Damien Roden-Timpson, please.
Chair, given Gordon Brown's previous penultimate answer to a question, I think I moved into comments, not questions, to be honest with you.
Okay, we're still on questions. Any other questions? Doesn't seem to be, so we're now into comments. Over to yourself, Damien.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. A little bit more reassured by the answers given by Kenneth, especially towards the end with regards to funding. I'm particularly concerned if funding doesn't come forward from Transport Scotland from whatever avenue, that the council will have to find the funds from elsewhere, even the AIP, which I think, as we all know, we struggle to use when we really want to use it. But I'd be really concerned if we use that just to put in a blanket 20 mile an hour across certain areas. So for me personally, by all means, let's use the Transport Scotland money to do what we can. If no money is forthcoming, I wouldn't want to see the West Lothian Council spending a penny further on this of our own, as we all know, Chair, vastly reduced funds that we have anyway. So I'd be really concerned moving forward for the council to spend money on this, because let's face it, I think, as we all know, how effective this will be with regards to the management of the 20 mile an hour speed limit is open for debate as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Angela Dorn-Timpson, please.
Thank you, Chair. It is very unfortunate, Chair, that the Scottish Government have not given West Lothian Council funding to fix potholes. The roads are a disgrace to date. However, the Scottish Government have again decided that they know better and decided that West Lothian Council need 20 miles per hour signage and speed restrictions. To me and others, Chair, it's common sense to make sure the roads are up to a satisfactory standard and not covered in potholes before unwanted and ineffective speed restrictions. It is a waste of taxpayers' money. This is across the board. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Councillor Pauline Stafford.
Thanks, Chair. I really welcome this funding coming forward from the Scottish Government, and I also welcome the fact that they've left it up to every local authority to determine what's right for their communities, unlike the experience in Wales. Angela Dorn-Timpson said this is a waste of money, but if you look at the statistics that Kenneth Brown mentioned at the last PDSP, these are really important. In Wales, there's been a 26% reduction in collisions, which costs us money, and a 28% reduction in fatalities in Wales in the first year of implementation. Those casualty figures are not just numbers, they're people with friends and families whose lives can be devastated by a road traffic accident. Anecdotally, I'm going to speak as a parent of a 10-year-old who's looking for more independence. He wants to go out on his own, and I can tell you at the top of my list, I've got many worries about this, but at the very top of my list is the speed of traffic on our roads, even in our residential area. When I see a car doing 40, I know if he's hit by that, his little body cannot cope with speeds of that magnitude. when I lived in the Netherlands, young people had so much freedom. Every young person cycled themselves to school. They cycled themselves to sports clubs. So I think there's a hidden benefit in this, that if parents could feel the roads were safer, children would have a lot more freedom and independence, and parents would have a lot more time and less pollution. I know there's concerns around the implementation and enforcement of this policy, but I think if we use good consultation and local discretion, it will bring benefits to communities. And within my own ward, I've been contacted numerous times by different areas who have got concerns about speeding in their area. So ultimately, our priority has to be road safety, and every single death is one too many.
Thank you very much. Any other comments, please? Okay. So we move towards concluding. Councillor Conn, please.
Chair, I have a motion which has been sent to Community Services.
Committee Services, can you circulate the motion, please? Sorry, Councillor Damien Don-Timpson, you're seeking to come in. Is it on a point of order?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for noticing. Yes, it is on a point of order, Chair. Is this motion to this agenda, because it says agenda item 8 on the attached, and understanding orders, should this be allowed on this paper, or would the
I'm governance manager. I'll advise you on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Consider that it is clear that it is linked to item number, the correct item number on the agenda, which is item number 9. It is clearly labelled National 20 mile/hour Speed Limit Strategy in Appropriate Urban Areas Implementation in West Lothian. Consider the motion to be competent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, 2 minutes are up. Councillor Conn, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. The first thing I was going to do actually was to correct the number. So apologies for that, and to elected members if it confused anybody. The first highlight that the title of the report is the National 20 mile/hour Speed Limit Strategy in Appropriate Urban Areas Implementation in West Lothian. I would really want to emphasise in appropriate urban areas. It's not county-wide, it's not whole-scale, and it's not countrywide, as has been mentioned in Wales. The paper outlines a framework in which the implementation of the proposal will be dealt with. I welcome the current funding from Transport Scotland, and would equally welcome future funding, hopefully which will help us to conclude the programme should there be a timescale which we haven't fully implemented this. I believe that the measures that will help to reduce vehicle speeds and the safety of residents and motorists in areas identified by officers, and doing it in a strategic manner, and also along with local consultation through LACs, so local members and local residents can comment on the measures which have been put out. The detail of the consultation, I think, has been touched on, the preparation of maps, etc., so that residents have a better understanding of exactly the extent within their own communities any new traffic measures are introduced. So I think the paper sets out very clearly why we're doing this and the benefits to the communities in West Lothian, and we're doing it in a strategic way. And whilst Borders did it during the COVID period, this wasn't supported within West Lothian, but I hope today, colleagues, that the Council Executive supports this strategy that's been outlined in the paper. And again, we just emphasise it's in appropriate urban areas. Other measures can be taken in other parts of the communities, such as the quiet roads mentioned by Councillor Stavern. And I would ask members to support the motion and the paper. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any amendments? Councillor Damien Don-Timpson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to give you a very brief verbal amendment, and I'd request that yourself and the governance manager allow me to speak to it after I've said what the amendment is.
Of course.
Well, don't say of course, didn't last time. In paragraph D, third line, where it says orders are brought to council executive, change council executive to full council.
Right, it comes to the council executive. That's the process which I've had in the past and which we should continue to do so.
Yeah, sorry, we can't get into debate, but please speak to your amendment.
Thank you, Provost. Not sure, sorry, thank you, Chair. Not sure why you allowed Councillor on to get into debate there. A lot of what Councillor Conn mentioned, I agree with some of the appropriate areas, etc. I think it is a good point, and not the nonsense that Labour did in Wales, where they put in the blanket 20 mile an hour across everywhere to then try and redact on that. However, to bring it only back to council executive and just use the excuse that's what we've done in the past, so we can't bring it forward, is a nonsense. We may well have examples in areas that the local people, community councils, those that have engaged in stakeholder consultations do not agree with it. And no councillor from that particular ward may sit on council executive. So we may well have councillors making decisions on wards that they have no knowledge of, they are not involved in, and obviously would not necessarily want to move forward to. So for me, it's a very obvious one for proper democracy to bring this back to full council and not to bring it to this committee, this executive, to make a decision on a minority of councillors to make a decision for the majority of the councillors out there. I would urge Labour to reconsider to ensure that they do not just appear democratic, but behave democratically and bring any orders that are under for a decision for unresolved objections, etc., bring back to full council and not council executive. Excuse me. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Damien. Do you have a seconder, please? And the seconder has this opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second this, and I agree with my colleague regarding the paper coming back to full council. Exactly what you said. We have to have full representation of all ward members, not just a few. Thank you, Chair.
Tom, you're buzzing to get. Do you have a point of order? Because we're not in debate here, you can cover any points in your summing up. Thank you very much. We're now open for debate. Thank you. We have a motion and we have an amendment. Does anyone wish to contribute? No one? You can sum up now, Councillor Collins. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. It's nice to think that we are doing a democratic process here, and I think actually it's already been mentioned as far as the democratic process is concerned. I'll repeat it just in case there was a hearing issue on Councillor Damon Timpson's video and audio. The consultation will go through local area committees, which all local members are on as far as each member's ward are concerned, so they can amply participate in that process. And as we have elsewhere in carrying out the democratic process of the council and standing orders, issues then get put up to the council executive if there is a dispute there to be made. I think, and I'll be very blunt here, to the Conservative members, they're just pandering to a situation which they hope to make political capital on, and are missing the whole point. This is about public safety, resident safety, children's safety, pet safety, if we get these through, rather than a process that seems to be a major bone of contention as far as this is concerned. Here, I've already outlined the process which we're doing, which nobody seems to be actually concerned about, because we've identified communities which will be dealt with on a phased basis. But just whether it gets reported to the council executive or the full council on this issue, which is a major issue, just seems to be missing the whole point and just point scoring on that basis. So I regret to say that I disagree with Councillor Doran Timpson on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Pass over to Governance Manager now. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. There are 13 votes to be cast. We have the motion by Councillor Tom Conn, that's your yes button, and we have the amendment by Councillor Damien Dorian Timpson, that's your no button, and we've got a third button for abstain. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. That's all votes now being cast. We have 8 votes for the motion, 5 votes for the amendment. The motion is carried.
Thank you very much. We now move on to item 10, active travel related funding, 2024-25. Victoria Mungle, please.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to inform Council Executive of the funding provision being made available to West Lothian Council for active travel related schemes and behavioural change activities for financial year 24 and 25. The report also identifies projects and deliverables against which funding has been allocated. The report was noted by the Environmental and Sustainability Policy Development and Scrutiny Panel on the 3rd of February. Section D2 of the report identifies the conditions attached to the £1.2 million Tier 1 General Capital Grant, a replacement of the previously titled Cycling, Walking and Safer Routes. This section highlights the 3 main projects, in addition to the small to medium projects listed within Section 7.1.4 of the Active Travel Plan we are currently progressing. Section D3 identifies the areas in which the £144,000 would be used to deliver activities related to community events, behavioural change and maintenance and inspection of existing active travel routes. Provision of the People and Place grant from SESTRANS, highlighted within Section D4 of the report, will ensure significant investment within education to allow for staff training and equipment to deliver tailor-made packages to nurseries, youth groups and schools. The £175,000 will also contribute towards improvements on our safe routes to school identified by the pupils and parents, or schemes identified from our AIP programme. Section D6 of the report provides information regarding additional SESTRANS funding to be used for behavioural change activities, to deliver programmes and provide training to try and change the way families travel to and from school. It is recommended that the Council Executive approves the funding allocations made available by Transport Scotland and SESTRANS. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Victoria. Are there any questions, please? Councillor Pato.
Very much, and thanks for the report. It's great to see how much money is coming in regarding active travel. It's really, really encouraging. I've just got 3 questions, if that's okay. The first one is, when is the active travel plan likely to be produced?
Thank you, Chair. The active travel plan was published in August of 2024.
Okay.
It's available on the Council's website.
Fantastic. I'll look it up after. The second question is in D5. It's about the schools that are applying for the dirt factory. It says that 9 primary schools will be applying. How can they apply? Where do we find that information? It's a bit light on detail in this report.
Thank you, Chair. So within education, we have an officer who's allocated to active travel. She engages with each of the schools. Her name's Melissa Dunn. So the schools can contact Melissa themselves, or they can also get in touch with myself and I can put them in contact.
And do the schools know that? Have you been in touch with them to tell them about this fabulous new project?
I believe that Melissa has been in contact with each of the schools to make them aware. She's issued correspondence to each of the schools to make them aware that the funding's available and that they can all make applications to her.
Great. And the final question is, and appreciate that it's not mentioned in this report, so you may not be able to answer it, but I really would appreciate an answer out with the meeting, is about the Newton to Dunfermline active travel path.
Yep, we've received information from the Community Council regarding Duntarvie. So what I would say on that is I'm happy to take it up out with this meeting. It involves several different departments within the council. So we are taking it forward. We've been waiting on responses from those parties to be able to come back with a conclusive answer.
Oh, well, it's good to know that you have actually received the correspondence that's been sent to you via various different means now. That's super. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Can I ask Victoria that when you give that information back to Councillor Patel, it be circulated to all members of this executive, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Pauline Stafford, thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for this report, Victoria. I also agree it's really welcome to see this level of investment coming in. I just wondered specifically on active travel routes, how do we monitor the impact of these projects?
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Stafford. It's something that came through the new active travel plan, and it was identified as something that we possibly weren't strong on, was monitoring the usage of the routes once they are complete. So we've been discussing strategies with Sestrans as to how we do that. Sestrans have offered us, they have equipment that can be used, and we can effectively use that on a borrowing scheme to use those routes. And we're also looking at various different elements of the free data that we can use to gather statistics as to how frequently those routes are being used from the point that they're complete.
That's great to hear. I think that's really essential, actually, because it's difficult to sell these projects when there's so many competing priorities. We've heard about potholes and things today, so it's really good if we've got the data behind it as well. Would be good. I saw a report by Living Streets that suggested the health benefits arising from people choosing to walk to work in Scotland would reduce a reduction in deaths worth over 600 million a year. Do we have any way of measuring the wider impacts of that on people's health and well-being?
Thank you, Chair. As part of the active travel plan development, we were in consultation with the NHS. They were one of the consultees. So I believe that they do have data regarding that, and I think it's something that I could get and circulate.
Okay, that would be great to see as well, thanks. And my final question is just, sorry, very parochial as a Bathgate councillor, this level of investment on the Edinburgh Road link is really welcome. I've just had a couple of questions about, do you have a rough timeline about when this work will start, how long it will take, and is the resurfacing of the road included in that figure?
Gordon Brown, please.
Thank you, Chair. The design is currently nearing completion. We have certain elements of the street lighting design to finish off and traffic signal work. It's anticipated that we probably will be going to procure this project in 2025, round about the end of summer, beginning of autumn. We will be procuring that to get on site for the later on in the year. The scheme, the active travel scheme, also includes resurfacing the carriageway along the 89 Edinburgh Road.
Thank you. Any other questions from anyone? Any comments? Councillor Logue?
Yeah, Victoria was one of our community council groups, and it was interesting to see all the problems that arise where we actually try to locate the active travel routes, and the even when you ask for local help, some of them didn't like it going by their back door. But it was really interesting, and there's like a local knowledge is probably beneficial in some ways, but as I say, it's very, very thing with land ownership's one of the big issues that I was surprised to find out, and ScotRail is another one that's difficulty with accessing through any of their properties. It's difficult, challenging, but
okay. Thank you. Any other comments? Sorry, Councillor Susan. Oh, sorry, I'm told Councillor Stafford's before you. Hold on, apologise.
Okay, sorry. No, just to say this is really welcome investment. There's a really good range of projects here. I'm obviously very delighted with the investment in Bathgate's active travel network. It's a really important strategy in supporting just population health. It has substantial environmental benefits linked to road pollution and traffic congestion as well. We've talked today about policies like the 20-mile-an-hour limit, and last week we were looking at the parking strategy. But I think if we really want to support people to shift their behaviour, it really needs investment at levels like this, sustained in our active travel network and public transport as well, to make the changes that we need people to make at the speed that we need them to make it. And I think it has the potential to take a lot of pressure off our NHS with good preventative measures like this. So it's very welcome.
Thank you. Councillor Susan Mannion.
Thank you, Chair. Just in relation to the picking up on the points that have been made, there is a most definite link between item 9 on the agenda, the speed limit limitation as outlined, as well as this active travel related funding to support the development. The two things go hand in hand, as was articulated earlier by Councillor Stafford in relation to the safety that we want to ensure exists within our communities around the speed of traffic. But what this means, it obviously takes it much wider around looking at how it is that we can be, more people can be walking safely and creating a much better and healthier environment. So I think it's incumbent on us all to have discussions with what this means in each of our wards and in each of our areas to see how we can make sure that this is all supported by the local community and we are making the most of the opportunities of both these new initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments? I think that concludes comments, so I'll move the recommendation. Are we agreed? Thank you very much. And item 11 was accepted as noted.